Hi, and welcome to another edition of Heidi's Family Kitchen. Today we are doing a delicious butterfly leg of lamb. So it's a boneless piece of lamb, and it's from a cookbook that we got from the Dinosaur Barbecue. So that's a famous restaurant down in Syracuse, New York. There's one in New York City too. And they have this great recipe that we've kind of adapted from that book to make it our own by making homemade pita. So we do lamb pita sandwiches with homemade Tzatziki sauce, and it is so yummy. You're gonna love it. So it's just a nice change to do lamb. So we get our lamb, this piece of lamb is from Costco. It's a boneless piece of Australian lamb, but certainly if you can find local lamb, do it. Just get your butcher to bone it for you. And if you're buying the one from Costco, you just want to take it out of the plastic and the little netting that's over top of it. Once you take the meat out of the package, you want to just take your thin boning knife or a small paring knife and trim any thick pieces of fat. You leave the fat cap on the meat because that gives it lots of flavor. But if there's any parts that you see are really thick, just trim that off with the knife. So the lamb marinade, it's made up of whole milk yogurt, some lemon zest, lemon juice, some garlic, some scallions, some dried thyme, black pepper. We've got some mint if you like mint. Some people don't. You can put it in or not. We don't add the mint. And it's a very simple marinade recipe. You just mix it all together, put it over the meat, cover the meat, and put it in the fridge for overnight. So now we're going to get started with our pita bread. And this is a nice, easy yeast recipe. You're going to need your mixer with the dough hook, and you want to use bread flour for this recipe as well as ice water. So the water in the recipe, make sure you use ice water. It's an important step. And you're going to mix all your dry ingredients in your mixer and add in the water and the other liquid ingredients, the oil and the honey. But you are going to hold back the salt. So add in your flour and your yeast, but not the salt. Hold that back. Then add in your liquid, and you want to mix that for about a minute or two, just till it comes together in a nice ball. Rested for 10 minutes, we're going to add in the salt. So just sprinkle the salt in with the mixer running. Knead the dough then for about 6 or 7 minutes. If you notice the dough is pooling in the bottom, add a little bit of flour, a tablespoon at a time. You really don't want to add in too much flour for this recipe, but if it's really pooling in the bottom like mine is in this bowl, then just add a tablespoon or two in as it's going. So once the dough has been kneading for 6 or 7 minutes, you're going to remove it from the bowl, divide the dough into 8 even pieces, and you want to form them into nice little balls. Put them on a greased baking sheet, cover them with saran, and you want to put them in the fridge overnight, at least 8 hours. Preferably just do it in the afternoon, cover them with saran, and put them in the fridge overnight. So our meat's been marinating overnight, and we're just going to take the plastic off, and you can see it's got all that marinade on. So this is a little messy, so we're just going to scrape off the most of the marinade that you can see. Just use your hands, it's the easiest. Your hands are your best kitchen tool, right? And just scrape that off. And we're going to just use some paper towel and pat it a bit dry. That's just so that when you put it on the barbecue, you'll get a nice sear on the outside. And then we just put it up here, and there's the fat side. So we patted the meat dry, and now it's ready for the barbecue. These have been resting overnight. Look how nice and puffy they are. And I'm going to show you now how to shape these in and bake them. So you want to use a lot of flour. So generously flour your counter. So you want to pay attention for this because we're trying to get them to puff up. You want to keep the top and not turn them over. So get lots of flour on your pita and give them a little stretch. The dough is super easy to work with. Just make sure you use enough flour. So we're just going to roll it out. I should mention that you want to have a pizza stone in the oven preheating for an hour at 425 because you're going to bake these right on your pizza stone. So once these are shaped, you're going to put them in the oven on the pizza stone. So we're going to go to the oven and do that. Okay, so those first two are out of the oven and they look perfect. They've puffed up nicely. They took the full 3 minutes before I flipped them over for another minute. So 4 minutes in total. They've turned out perfectly, puffed up nicely. They're ready to go with our grilled lamb and homemade tzatziki. Now we're going to make the homemade tzatziki sauce to go with our grilled lamb and homemade pitas. So it's very, very simple sauce to make. And it starts with yogurt, a cup of whole milk yogurt. And to that, we are going to add some cucumber. And I like these little ones. And I like to leave the skin on. This has been washed. And we're just going to dice that up nice and small. So just a nice fine dice to put in there. And if you're using a regular cucumber, make sure you take the seeds out, even an English cucumber, because it makes the sauce way too watery. But in this one, the seeds, these little Lebanese cucumbers, the seeds are not a problem. And we want about 3/8 a teaspoon of salt. We want 1 clove of garlic. And for this recipe, I am going to use my microplane because it's nice and fine and you're not going to get big chunks of garlic. So we've got a little bit of garlic in there. And then we have about a tablespoon of lemon juice going in there. Maybe a little more. Not very much juice in this one. The recipe also traditionally calls for mint or dill, and I'm not a mint fan. We're not a mint fans in this family, so I don't add the mint or the dill to this. I just keep it really simple. So that is all that there is to making that tzatziki sauce. So we're going to get that put in a nice serving bowl. And then we'll be ready to serve it with our lamb and our homemade pita for an amazing family dinner.